Hi there, welcome back. Today we're going to somewhere slightly different, somewhere that you may or may not have been to before, but I think it's one of those hidden little treasures that if you go to, you'll come back time and time again to. Today we've come to Saltburn. Saltburn's situated on the North Yorkshire coast, just near Redcar. One of the things I didn't realise about Saltburn until we got here is there is a bit of a country park. A little stream running down, and right next to it is a miniature railway, which I've never heard anybody mention before. They maybe have, but I don't recollect it. Obviously, we're here just before Easter, and, well, as you can see, it's not open yet. There are a couple of car parks in Saltburn. This one is cheaper than the pier one. The pier one allows you to stay for 2 hours and that's it. Whereas this one gives you other options as well and is a couple of pence cheaper, but not a great deal of difference. The one at the pier costs £4.50 for a maximum of 2 hours, whereas I think this one does £4.20 and you can go over that period. As you'll see as we walk along, there's quite a few places to have a bite to eat. As you know, if you've watched any of my videos, I do like to keep a track on how much things are. And this one isn't necessarily the cheapest place in the world. But there again, I've not tasted the food, so it could be fantastic and worth every penny. I'll leave that up to you. If you've been there, let us know in the comments. Like everywhere near the sea, you will see little boats nearby. These, with the tractors to tow them into the water, seem to be stored right on the seafront, which I think is fairly unusual. And yes, those were my kids running past. And yes, that's my wife and one of my other children. And with some sort of gate, this is where that stream comes out. As you can see, it's not actually going all the way to the sea, so there must be some sort of lock facility just underneath here. If you look really far to the end of the harbour, you'll see a pub called The Ship. Now, The Ship is probably on the older end of Saltburn's history, because it's believed that a lot of its history was to do with smugglers. Obviously the area was known for farmers and fishermen, but in the mid-18th century this all started to change. A man called Henry Pease was visiting his brother Joseph in the nearby fishing village of Marske-by-the-Sea, and he went for a walk. When he came across the small Ship Inn and the few houses that were next to it, he thought this would be a fantastic place to have a resort, a place for Victorians to go and take in the sea air. Now, Henry Pease just happened to be the owner of one of the biggest estates in Middlesbrough. so he had the money to do that. The land was purchased from the Earl of Zetland, and the company commissioner surveyor George Dickinson laid out what was to become Saltburn-by-the-Sea. One of the jewels in the crown of it was to be the Zetland Hotel, positioned right on the seafront, and if you like, it was one of the very, very first railway hotels in the country. It wasn't the first, but it wasn't far off it. We're just coming up now to the main attractions of Saltburn, and that's the pier, and then the vehicular tramway, which unfortunately has been subject to a fire recently, so it's not actually in use. But let's have a walk up into the main area. And this is the car park I mentioned that's right next to the pier, that is more expensive, but if you're coming for Saltburn, 2 hours if you want to see the pier and the tramway, which no doubt won't be that long before it's fixed. Not a bad place to park, but the other one isn't that far anyway. As you can see, there's a couple of places to eat. The wind was quite strong when we recorded this, so apologies if there's a bit of wind noise. As you know, I always like to check prices, and there's certainly a fair few prices there to have a look at.
Today, would you prefer chips?
There's even a place there where you can hire surf outfits. You'll see in a bit why that is a very good idea. And here's the vehicular railway, tramway, so called because it goes up the side of a hill. This particular one, like the one that we saw in Scarborough, this is actually the second one in the country, works on water. The water fills up, and when the tram gets to the other end, it releases it back down. But unfortunately, it's had a fire, which means that there's a little bit of work needs to be done before it can be working again. Before the tramway, for a few years anyway, you went up via a hoist to see that from the top of the cliff or go down to the pier. I wouldn't have thought that would have been that comfortable or that safe. One thing that is pretty unusual are these toilets here. They don't charge you, or they certainly didn't while we were there, but as you go in, it is a little bit confusing. You turn right for the men's and straight on for the women's. And a nice little miniature golf place. Don't see many of them right on the seafront. And here's the price for it, as well as the drinks from the place next door. And yet another fish and chip shop. Let's have a sneaky look at the prices, shall we? Well, the chips are the same price as the first one that we saw. £2.50 for a small portion. It's how big a small portion is though. And you get the odd little place to sit and shelter from the wind and rain. Now, if you do want to learn to surf, they even have a school here for you to learn to surf. I've purposely zoomed in on the actual prices so you can have an idea how much all this thing is. But if it's anything that you've ever fancied doing, this is the place to come. There's light surf and there's heavy surf, and this is a place where you can just learn at your own pace. Looks like the prices have been there for quite some time though now, but give you an idea of the sort of costs. As we come to the end of the promenade, the proverbial British beach hut. And these you can rent. A lot of them tend to be pre-bought and that's tough. You can't get into it. And if you're wondering what those boards are at the bottom, that's where it just protects it from water getting in through the bottom crack on the door during bad weather. Take them out and then they've got straight into it properly. Let's get back to the pier itself, Saltburn Pier, which has been about since mid-Victorian times, the 1850s, 1860s. Now, you don't have to go through the amusements, there's no charge to go on the pier. You literally can go around the edge, or you can walk through the amusements with no cost and go straight onto the pier. Same as Victorians would have done for a stroll out to get the sea air. But if you look at the sides, look at the surf on there. Fantastic. And you can see that there are some people out there, well, you may not be able to see depending on what you're watching this on. I'll zoom in on a couple of them in a minute. This pier's been unchanged since Victorian times. Yes, the planks have been replaced and repair work done, but that entrance to the pier, those sort of three roofs, if you like, of it, are identical to images to the ones seen in Redcar and other places, but this is the only surviving pier on the northeast of England. And as I pan round, the last few buildings you can see in the distance is the ship I mentioned, pre-Victorian buildings. I promised you a bit of surf action, and this is why this is such a fantastic beach for surfers. A bit pebbly for everybody else, but for surfers, this is ideal.
So I hope you enjoyed our little trip to Saltburn-on-Sea. Nice quiet place, brilliant if you're into surfing. Bit of a pebbly beach, but it's good enough. And one or two bits and pieces to stop at and have a bite to eat. I wouldn't necessarily resort to go for any length of time, but if you're going to Scarborough, Bridlington, if you're going to Whitby, anywhere like that, this is definitely a place you want to visit. Right, so I'd like you to hit that subscribe button and watch the next video. And I'll see you on that. Bye for now.